the attention that I wanted from women. I was willing to do whatever it takes to be seen, including, getting rich. I wanted money. I wanted fast cars. I wanted to be the man.
Welcome back for part 2 of getting to know EA, the man behind the affirmations. Part 1, we discussed his childhood, how he grew up underprivileged and underserved.
Yes.
Today, we're going to talk about where things start to go astray and the choices that led EA to where he is today. So welcome back, EA. It's great to see your face.
Ooh, it's great to be back. I'm telling you, man, this is therapy for me. Like being able to share my story because I'm a podcaster and I've been on several podcasts. I've probably been on several hundred podcasts actually, but I haven't had a chance to really just dive off the platform and just really talk about, the early years and all that good stuff. And it's good to be able to get this out. Yeah. So thank you for having me.
Well, I can tell you, since the first time I met you, your energy is fantastic. And
Thank you.
we edit your podcasts and things like that. I've always wanted to dive deep into how you became who you are today because it seems like no matter what your struggles are, you always have a positive outlook and are you're just so energizing and uplifting. So I wanted to know I'm so interested in knowing how you got to where you are today.
So I want to first start by saying this. I thank you again for having me. I think the juiciest part, like the earliest thing that I can remember about getting in, how the road turned was women. It was my desire to be seen, the attention that I wanted from women. I was willing to do whatever it takes to be seen, including, getting rich. I wanted money. I wanted fast cars. I wanted to be the man, right? So with that came all the all the difficulties, all the pressures of being a man. Okay, like gangs, like again, growing up in an area where we're 3% people of color. When you start making money, you start having things. People notice and they see that. So I had to find ways to either protect myself and still rise. So that was the biggest challenges for me, man. I'm talking about I went through probably about 50 women during this time. And sex was my coping mechanism. It was like a drug. I mean, it was definitely like a drug, man. Sex is one of the strongest drugs on earth. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it's done right and when all the good stuff that comes with it, man, it could be very addicting. Yes. So
I would guess too on that with the sex. It's not just specifically the action, it's the feelings that come with it. They were fulfilling a need that maybe you were lacking. Would you say that was a driver?
absolutely. It was and for me, the feeling that was lacking more than just the sexual feeling was the control. Something about the control that I established through sexual relations was the driving factor for me to just I want that kind of power. That power feels good. That's addicting. You know what I'm saying? Just to be able to, I got this woman, I got this woman, I got her friend too. Okay. So that's man, that's some of the best um powerful energy that the world has to offer for me to me. So that's what drove you know my lack of discipline. I was very undisciplined. I was just throwing my dick a party for lack of a better word. Like I was throwing my dick a party. I was throwing my dick a party a few times a day. Actually, you know what I'm saying? I was literally driven by sex. You know what I'm saying? A woman can call me, hey, I got this pussy. Like, okay, I'm on my way. Oh my god, pussy, pussy, pussy. That was just that was the way I lived. But by the grace of God, I, I I come from grounded roots, so God always had a plan for me, and then my beautiful wife, even with that bad energy, she was right there. She was right there. She took everything on the chin, and we still together to this day.
Let's just really quick. You are high school or just out of high school age. while all of this is
Hmm.
occurring. And we talked in part one, you met your wife in seventh grade, you were just friends, you each had other partners. Now, are we at the stage where you two come back together? Like you mentioned she's been with you through all of this.
So throughout my life, the second chapter of my life, I did prison. Um, I spent probably about a span of 20 years in prison. Okay. I did 20 years in an installment plan type of deal. I never did 20 straight years, but the most time I've done at once was 34 months in prison. Okay. And that's where my fondest memory comes from with my wife, because that's when she showed me how resilient, how, what real love truly was. I was in jail, I was in prison, and mind you, I left society with a different girlfriend. Okay. It was a girl that I was staying with out of high school. We had a house together, but then once the law stepped in, she disappeared. She moved to LA, and it was just me and the rest of the women that I was involved with. And then my wife, now she stepped all the way up while I was in prison, took care of me, made sure I had letters, made sure every time I called that collect call, this is a collect call from it, she always answered. She always made sure letters was in the box, made sure food was in the, made sure I had commissary every week for 34 months straight. So I paroled when I got out of prison. I moved in with her. And that relationship lasted about 7 months because there were some things that happened while I was in jail that I got wind of while I was in jail, but I thought I can get over it. I was like, okay, because she had slept with a few people that I didn't necessarily agree with. I didn't like the situation, but I had to, over time, I had to learn like that's nothing. Like, what I'm saying? Sex is just a meat on the bone, right? You can you can fuck it, eat it, or leave it alone, right? At the end of the night, sex is just sex. What I had to come to realize was the love that she really, really had for me. Like it was unconditional. Like she was willing to do whatever it takes to make sure my sanity was good. So I had, so once I left, prison the first time, I got out, moved with her. That lasted 7 months. And then it wore on me. Okay, because like I'm in society again. I'm at the top of my food chain, so everybody knows EA, right? So everybody knows EA. Everybody knows some of the things that my wife had done while I was in prison. So they was like bringing it up, throwing it in my face. And at first I was taking it like, yeah, whatever. She's a, she did it, whatever. And then it just wore down on me. And then again, I have women issues. I don't know if I mentioned that in the first episode. My woman, I'm still dealing with those women issues, right? So having these women issues, getting fresh out of prison, and then just seeing life, like, and then life started coming. Like when I first got out, it was basic again, but then life started going faster. Like money started coming, opportunity started coming, and then women started coming more. Right? I'm older now. I'm 21. I'm in the 21 club, so I can do more. I can go to clubs. I'm in the music business. I had a record label in the city of Portland. I was an artist. I released music, and I did shows. I did events, parties, da 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 da. So women was always on the menu. And so I left. I left my. She wasn't my wife then, but I left that relationship so I can pursue what I thought was happiness, with just other women, just having a life. I'm in the music business. I get to fuck every girl I want. I get to travel all the time. Oh my God, oh my God. And then, God woke me up again, because even through that, I was still living the fast life. Okay. I was in the music business, but I was still selling drugs at a high level, to the point where the Fed stepped in. They knocked on the door. What I'm saying? They sent me that. So for people that haven't been in trouble, when you get in trouble, if you ever go to court, there's what the state or what they use against you is called a discovery. Okay. And the discovery is when the prosecution gives you every single thing that they're going to use against you in trial. Okay. So what woke me up, I mean, and I might be going a little faster than I should, but where I decided to just like, I need to get off this turnip truck, right? Is when I got the discovery for, it said Erick Allen versus the United States of America. I had been in trouble every 5 years in my life. I've been in trouble. I can still say that to this day. Like I probably like in the last probably I'm probably on year like 6 or 7 where I haven't been in trouble, and I'm blessed because I changed my life. But when I like turning 18, to now, I could not get 5 years in without getting in some kind of trouble. Some kind of trouble. Um, drug selling, or drug selling, something like that. Okay.
So let's rewind just a minute. So I'm assuming that drug selling is what wound you up in prison
Yes.
for the 34
Yes.
months when your wife stepped up. So you had been doing this all through high school and eventually now you're
No,
after high school.
after high school. It was like junior year. Junior year, I dabble with it, and then after that, I went full blown for sure. Yeah.
Talk about the risks involved and what it looks like to be a dealer.
I think one of the biggest things that I want people to take away from the fast life is you're not safe. One thing I can remember when I look back at it, I never felt safe. You never have real friends. Most of the people around you are jealous of you. They want what you got. They want to be you. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I've lost a lot of relationships over life with that intention. People just they got in my life so they can get up under me, so they can take what I have, or utilize it so they can use it up. You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing I would say, man. Selling drugs, man, that is a I don't even know the word I want to use, but it's almost like methodical. Like all we see is the money that comes with it, but they don't talk about the pressures, the obstacles, the lack of opportunities, all that stuff that comes with it. You know what I mean? And for me, if I'd have had somebody in my life that spoke to me like that, because my dad, he didn't come from that side of the coin, so he didn't know nothing about it. So, and then there was some substance abuse going on in the home. So he was the wrong person that could tell me something about don't do it, don't do it. No, I'm looking at him like shit, it's going on in here. Obviously, it must be something we should be doing. Plus, I want money. They're not gonna hire me at. I mean, I'm living in Oregon, and like my job, the jobs that I can get are very, what I'm saying, far and few in between. And then keep in mind, I'm 17, 18 years old. I'm not old enough. I have no work experience. So the only thing that came to me was selling drugs. I felt like that was what I have to do. This is my career choice. You know.
Well, and this is a touchy question, but do you feel like you were forced to sell drugs because of the color of your skin? Like do you feel like you didn't have the same opportunities because you were a person of color?
I do, I do, I do, I do, and I think that but at the same time, just after I said it, I realized that that really was an excuse and a cop out, right? Because at the end of the night, man, when you put your mind to something, you can get whatever you really want. The mind is one of the most powerful tools on earth. The mind. So I was using that as an excuse when I was younger. Oh man, they ain't gonna hire no black man. They ain't gonna do. They ain't gonna. And then I decided to take the higher road because of it, right?
You get in trouble, you're selling we're at the stage where you're selling drugs, you've now gone to prison for 34 months, you're coming out and life is coming at you fast and hard. And
I'm in the music business.
yep, you're in the music business and you said are you still selling drugs at this point?
I'm selling drugs. I'm selling drugs to fuel the music business. Like, okay, so when I first got out of prison, I stopped for a period of time just because, of course, you fresh out of jail, just got out doing 34 months. I mean, I was gonna live off women. Being honest, like my wife, she was working at the time. I paroled to her house, and she had a good job, she had a good car. So who am I? I'm driving her car while she's at work. I'm living in the house. I'm shitting in the toilet while she's at work. I don't have to pay bills. I have to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that was the. But then that for me, a guy like me, I can only do that so long. Okay, I cannot live off of other people. I've just something within me. It's like I think that came from being broke and poor and living like that. My desire, I have the desire. I want more in life. So that's what happened. Once I got back into the want more in life, I looked at the options that I had. Okay, music business ain't paying me. It's not. I'm paying the music business to be in the music business. So I decided to say, okay, let me just do it one more time. One more time. Let me just see what it do. And of course, I'm at the top of the food chain. So when my one time turns into me getting a discovery saying Erick Allen versus the United States of America, and that's just Whew, that was, man, even saying that now still gives me like the chills, man. I don't know how the hell I went through that shit. That's the most challenging, you know what I'm saying? Like I've had United States of America versus, the state of Oregon or the state of Kansas or the state of Las Vegas because I've been arrested in all I've been arrested in probably 30 states out of 50,
Holy shit.
right?
All for drugs?
All for drugs or violations from, being on probation, parole from drugs. Okay. Once you get a label as a drug dealer, the type of drug dealer I was, anytime I go anywhere, anytime the police pull me over, it's like, man, let's just see. Let's just see. Let's tear up the car, let's tear up his property, tear him up, search. And then being on parole, all it takes is I can cuss out a police officer. That's a violation. Okay, you got to obey every law. I'm in the city of Portland, black man on parole. I'm just a target. I'm a moving target, basically. And mind you, I smoked marijuana at that time. I was smoking marijuana in a state where it was not legal. So I was on parole, and part of the parole conditions is not using any drugs or alcohol. Okay, but I was a rebel. I told the parole officer, "Fuck you! I'm gonna smoke weed. I'm in the music business. We smoke weed in the music business. Okay, this is an entertainment thing. I need this to entertain." So I had a horrible relationship with my parole officer for many years because he just kept saying, "Okay, you want to be a tough guy? I'm gonna lock your ass up every time," and he did. So I would go out of state. I would do shows out of state. They were prohibiting me for doing the rap thing and all that kind of stuff, but I was doing it anyway. So I go across the state lines. I do a show in Idaho. I do a show in Washington. The parole officer find out about it. Get him, lock him up. And that's what happened. Fresh out of prison for probably like the first 10 years out of prison. Like that's what kept happening. I get so far, and then they'll just say, "Hey, nope, he's doing the music again. Lock him up, or give him a UA. Lock him up. Everything is lock him up."
So while you were selling all these drugs, were you also doing the drugs or were you just a dealer?
I was mainly a dealer. When I look back at the road, some of the places that I've been, like selling, like I had drug houses, and I've been inside while people are using. I've been around it, so I can say that I can say respectfully that I've never picked up by choice a crack pipe, and put it in my mouth and sucked on it. But being around it, cooking it, and all the other stuff, I used based on that. I know what it smells like, and I remember having like contact from being around it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Do you find that you were addicted to that? Like, are you just from being around the smell, was that enough to make you want it more? Like you wanted to be involved with it more? And
No, well, not involved with it. What made me want to be more involved with it was the revenue that was produced. You know what I'm saying? I can honestly say throughout the course of my life, I've touched over $1 million playing with the drug game. Okay, so I've seen over $1 million. I was in a drug game for over 10 years, at the top of the food chain. Right, so I'm a supplier for the suppliers. So that's very addicting. That's very addicting. That's one of the biggest things people ask me all the time. Are you in recovery? Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things to recover from. Because now I'm not making nowhere near that money, man. I'm thinking I had a motto, $1,000 day. Like we used to make $1,000. That was my quota. I had to make $1,000 a day, or I'm not stop working until I make that $1,000 for the day. So it was me and my team used to say that $1,000 days. That was just a motto we all said, and I for years I hit that motto. I hit that minimum for years in the game. So.
you were right there at the top.
Mhm.
What was your relationship? You're so high up there. They obviously trust you. Was there some sort of bond other than we trust him to push our drugs?
Well, it's weird. As you ask the question, I'm kind of going backwards and reflecting. And for me, I guess I look at it like this. Being at the top of the food chain, there's other people at the top of the food chain too, right? So, and collectively, like I said, when you come from this side of the coin, you know who's doing what around here. So I knew who was doing what. People knew what I was doing. So I never had to really worry about watching my back because like Portland is it's not like, and I get a lot of backlash when I say this, but we don't have like that that, the killers and dealers like that. We do. I mean, we do, but it's not as severe as like Chicago or, LA. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I knew the other key players. So I never really worried about watching my back. I always had my stuff protected, but there's always a sense of, you got to watch it because you got to watch the police. You got to watch people telling on you. You got to watch the themes. You got to watch. Everything is just full time watching. There's no way you can even feel comfortable in life. Like the fastest you make money, the fastest problems happen. Or I can make a couple $1,000s today, and then that same day I'll get hit with something that cost me $4 or $5,000. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the biggest things that I learned is like when you make fast money, it goes out even faster. So I'm on a slow grind nowadays. I love the slow grind. The slow grind, man, it's taught me a lot of about patience, and and it's taught me a lot about like resilience. How to be resilient and how to just not take no for an answer. Selling drugs, man, it's so easy, man. People say yes to everything. You all you do is develop people as yes man and women. When you got the bag, when you got the drugs, when you got the money, I very rarely hear no. Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear no. I didn't hear no at all, actually. So
At this point in your life, going forward again, you've gotten out, you're with your wife, who wasn't your wife at the time, and then you've split off because you're doing the
no,
music thing. And was your wife around when you were dealing? Like how did your choices affect her?
she was actually, she helped me in a lot of places because I wasn't just dealing in my city that I lived in. Actually, on the contrary, I was doing it the opposite. I was actually going away, going to other areas and destroying those areas and just sleeping at home. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's a few times that I took her on missions with me, and she would either be the driver or rent the car for me or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So she saw it firsthand. You know what I'm saying? And what woke me up after getting that Erick Allen versus the United States of America, I went through that whole process. It took me 10 months to fight that case. I did 10 months in a small Oregon town called Grants Pass, where the Ku Klux Klan birthed, where the Ku Klux Klan originated. It's in Grants Pass. So while and one thing about the feds when they give you a federal charge, they can place you anywhere. They can put you in Egypt, anywhere in the United States that has a jail that they want to hold you until a trial. They can put you there. So they elected to put me in Grants Pass, Oregon. So
Do you feel like that was intentional?
everything is intentional. Everything it was designed to break me because when they came at me with the plea bargain, the deal was 188 months. So they thought that I was gonna break and say, okay, I'll take that 188 months. I can't even, it's only 12 in a year. I can't count that high. Are you kidding me? So in my mind, I was like, look, if y'all gonna give me 188 months on the deal, man, you might as well just give me life. And that's what the deal was. It was like, you either take this 188 months, but if we find you guilty, you're getting life. For drug selling? Well, I'm gonna have to roll the dice, guys, because we going to court. Okay, so I paid for an attorney. I spent $140,000 for an attorney, and 10 months later, I walked out with my freedom. It was one of the best stories, best memories of my life. I remember my attorney came and saw me in Grants Pass, and he was like, the DA came at me today with a deal I think you should consider. I'm like, a deal? I told you I paid you $100,000. I ain't thinking about no damn deal. He was like, no, you should look at this one. I'm like, okay, what is it? He was like, well, what they decided to do is they're gonna drop it from a federal charge and put it back in a state, which was a significant difference. Okay, like the state charge and the guilty plea was only like probation or some weird shit it could happen, but in the feds, it's different. When you already have I had previous distribution charges, so this would have been my third one. So in their mind, the minimum sentence it was life because I already had the way my points stack up in the feds. The feds is a point system on how they convict you. So when he came at me and said, "Look, they're going to drop it out of the federal court. They're going to put it in the state court. They're going to give you credit for the time that you've been here, which was 10 months, and they're going to put you out on probation." I swallowed it. I signed that same day and got out that same hour. I was crying. I was, you know, and ultimately I regret it because it was another conviction. It put another conviction on my record. But what it did was it did open my eyes. Like I haven't been back to that side of the fence since then because I promised God two things: get me out of this, and I promise you, I'm done with that. I'm done with selling drugs to that extent ever. I will never do it again. And I'm gonna marry that beautiful woman that you keep blessing me with, right? Because during that whole 10 months, this beautiful woman was driving from Portland to Grants Pass for a 30-minute behind the glass visit. Okay. And from Portland to Grants Pass, that's over 200 miles. Over 200 miles. Okay. So she was driving 200 miles once a month to see me for 30 minutes just to keep my spirits up because we couldn't afford, because that's a long distance call. So I couldn't afford to be calling her every night and blowing up the phone system. So we had a design. She would write me all the time and she would accept the phone call, I think once a week. She put money on the books and then she came and saw me for the whole 10 months. So when God gave me that plea, I promised and I pray, look, man, get me out of here. Marriage is on the horizon. She's gonna give I'm all that. And that's exactly what happened. I got out August what's this? I would say August 18 years ago, because my son is 18 now. Right. And within a month, I got her pregnant and that's why we have our son. So that was like a love child because our daughter is not biologically mine, but I still raised her as if she was mine. She's still mine. She calls me dad. That's my daughter. I wish you would. Okay. But biological, this is my actual blood son with her. That was the best blessing God has given both of us because we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot together, individually, collectively, whatever. But to have that love child together, that woke me all the way up. I've been living in my purpose ever since. Okay. And I'm not perfect. I still deal with women issues. Okay. Still to this day.
What did your wife's family think of her being involved with you and the things? Is she close with them? Like was that an issue too?
That's a big question. That is a great question. So my wife has a very small family in Portland, Oregon, right? And her mother was an educator for 30 years, retired principal teacher from the school district. So I remember having, deep conversations with her mom. Her mom liked me as a person, but her mom didn't like me for the situation, if that makes sense. She didn't like my choices. But she did respect me for the fact that I was willing to step up and take care of another man's child, right? And I never was uh, physically abusive to her daughter. So I've never, and I've always been a respectable person. When I see her mom, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I'm that type of person, just naturally. So I don't recall um, having any bad relations with her mom. But I could say her mom didn't care for me. Just like as a parent, you wouldn't care for a person like me. That's putting your daughter through that kind of stuff. That's something to care for. But today, we have a great relationship. I love my mother in love. She's just so inspirational to my relationship with my wife. And my wife grew up without her father or without her biological father. So I think that's the reason why she put up with a lot of my shit. Is because she had her own issues and she was broken and she had abandonment issues and all these other things. And she just, she tells me all the time, the only thing she prayed for in life was just to have a family. She just, that's all she wanted because when she grew up, she didn't have her father. So she just wanted a relationship with a man that was going to be a father to her children. And God answered that prayer for her because I can't see my life any other way without her. And again, I still do. I mean, I pray that God works on these women issues. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting a lot better. You know what I'm saying? A super lot better. But I still struggle. I still struggle in that department. I'm keeping it real. But now I'm going to be empty nesting, and I'm hoping that God just has more and more blessings for me and that beautiful woman that He blessed me with.
This kind of wraps up. So now you've gotten out, you have your freedom,
Yeah.
and you have your son.
Yes.
So that will kind of lead us into this next part. What, just a little snippet, what's next for everybody who's listening? What does the part 3 of the EA journey look like?
Man, part three is perseverance to the max. Okay, it talks about you know what we've used, the struggle, but how we overcome the struggle, and what journey we on, what train we on, what track we on right now.
Awesome. So that wraps up this episode. Stay tuned for part 3, where we witness EA turn things in the right direction.
Yes.
Post-production is done with care by Ocean Tree Creative.